In this video, we'll talk about cultural change. Cultures are constantly changing. They're not monolithic. They are always adapting to new things that are happening in the world. Um, and so cultures are always in a state of shift. Usually, cultural change happens slowly and incrementally across time. Time here is very important because culture is the vehicle through which society is kept stable across time. So, for a society to persist, it develops its own culture, which is then passed down from generation to generation. But change can also happen in rapid or dramatic ways. A new invention, like the microchip, or maybe there's a huge disaster that wipes out a very large city or half the population, or a drought. A number of different kinds of things that can make society shift in a rapid and dramatic fashion. Also, another thing that happens is that subcultures and countercultures can influence the more dominant culture. So, something that's an element of a subculture can then become part of dominant culture across time. So, for example, the LGBT subculture through the gay rights movement has influenced mainstream society, and now we have same-sex marriage across the entire United States. Um, and then also some things that are part of dominant culture can change to a counterculture. So, for example, looking at the legalization of marijuana today, marijuana use is in some ways part of a counterculture, but before the Prohibition era, the use of marijuana was completely legal throughout much of the United States. So something that was once part of dominant culture, because of new laws that were written in the 1920s and 30s, has then become relegated to forming its own kind of counterculture that rejects the penalization of marijuana use. And then it's all kind of circular too, because then this element, marijuana legalization, is now becoming influencing mainstream people's opinions and views are shifting, and so it's possible that the marijuana legalization will take place nationwide, at which point that then it would become part of dominant culture. So it's all very convoluted. One of the biggest changes that we've seen in our culture in the past 100 years has been the onset of technology. What we're finding now is that technology sets the framework for a society's non-material culture, and new technologies that use microchips, cell phones, computers, etc., have a significant impact on social life. So, for example, think about dating. Now there are dating apps where rather than going out to a bar or restaurant or to church or however people met people, now you can meet people on an app or on a website. Um, it's estimated that around 70% of relationships by the year 2050 will begin on the web. It's also changing the structure of the family through the ways in which we're communicating with each other. Friendship as well, because now you can have friends that live on the other side of the planet and you can speak to them, in kind of quick and constant ways through Facebook or, through text messaging, Skype, etc. So it facilitates connections to people who we may be removed from by distance. I had posted 2 videos for you to go watch on Blackboard. The first one is a scene from a comedy movie directed by Judd Apatow called This Is 40. As Paul Rudd and Leslie Mann are a husband and wife of two preteen girls. Um, this movie, I think, is really genius in the way that it looks at the ways in which technology has affected culture, or the way in which technology is a kind of an embedded part of modern culture. So this particular scene, they're the parents are setting down some ground rules about the use of technology and the way that the children play. And so it's like 3 minutes long. It's hilarious. I really recommend you go watch that one. Second is another video called Teens React to 90s Internet. You don't have to watch the whole thing. It's a bit longer, but there's basically it's a group of teenagers today that are kind of judging their reaction to a kind of a how-to instructional video for the internet that was released in the mid-90s. So you can see how even in just roughly 20 years, how technology has shifted dramatically. So what was once, it was really foreign to both cultures, because the point of the instructional video was to instruct people because they weren't familiar with the internet. But it's gotten so different now that it's foreign to kids today as well, because the internet has and technology has innovated so rapidly. So go watch both of those because they're great videos. A couple of key definitions to understand the ways in which technology and culture intersect. The first is this idea of cultural lag. So cultural lag is about the ways in which technology has surpassed culture in some ways, and so culture hasn't quite yet caught up. So I recently moved back to Alabama from Florida, and when I did, a few months after that, I got a letter in the mail from the state of Florida saying that I no longer had car insurance, and that they were going to give me a fine because I had a Florida license plate that was still registered in my name, which I'm not supposed to do. Apparently the state of Florida is very particular about these things. So what I had to do was to communicate with them to say, hey, I'm no longer a resident of Florida. My car is registered in another state now. I have a different license plate. Totally got insurance. It's not you guys' deal to worry about it anymore. And so I thought, that's great. I can totally do that. But how they wanted me to communicate it was that they wanted me to send a fax. This is the year 2017. No one in America has a fax machine anymore. I'm oversimplifying, of course, some people do. But the facsimile technology is extremely outdated. Now we have PDFs. Why can't I scan it and use a PDF? I can scan it using an app on my phone and have a PDF and instantly and email it. It would be wonderful. It'd be very easy. But instead I had to go to the public library and pay $2 a page to fax the state of Florida a notification so they wouldn't try to give me a fine. Another thing is the cell phone use on airplanes. It remains against the Federal Communication Commission's rules to use cell phones on airplanes. And there's no, from what I understand, which is admittedly not all that much, I'm not a scientist when it comes to those things, but from what I understand, there's no real reason that we're not allowed to use cell phones. The common parlance is that they can potentially interfere, the radio waves can potentially interfere with the plane's guidance systems. They're like GPS. But that's highly unlikely, and no case of it has ever been reported. Instead, I've learned that there may be some reasons to worry in terms of our cell phones in a flight that's low to the ground, either in takeoff or landing, could interfere with the cell phone towers because the plane is moving very quickly, and so it's having to keep up with the phone by changing tower to tower to tower very quickly. So it can cause a little extra demand on cell phone towers to keep up with where your phone is. But I don't know, I'm of the opinion that that's their problem. Although the policy might be there, our culture has passed beyond it, and technology has too. So we like to use our phones on planes, and certainly there are ways to do that, but the rules haven't quite caught up. Another idea is this notion of cultural leveling. Cultural leveling is about the way that, because of the rapid rise of technology through the internet, the globalization of mass media, where movies can be popular all over the world, This is a fairly new phenomenon. What is happening is that then culture is becoming more flat. It's losing some of its nuance. So, for example, we could all hop on a plane and go to Beijing, and we could stay at a Marriott, and we could go to Starbucks, and we could go eat at McDonald's. And now, mind you, all of those things might have some element of Chinese culture to them. In all actuality, those are all American things. So, so it's really about the way that which culture worldwide is becoming slightly more Americanized, because as we'll talk about in the next slide, we're one of the biggest producers of culture through our entertainment industry, which is the largest in the world. To talk a little bit about cultural leveling, I posted a video from this channel on YouTube called Abroad in Japan. It's about a British guy who shares kind of different. Actually, I really like his channel. It's pretty interesting, though I've never been to Japan. But he in this particular video, he talks a bit about how in Japanese culture, because there's not really Christmas in a natural way, because so few of the population were Christian, so Christmas is kind of a recent phenomenon for Japanese people to celebrate. But he talks about how Japanese people, the norm is to go eat KFC on Christmas, due in part to a wildly successful marketing campaign in the 70s and 80s, which you'll learn more about if you watch the video. So go take a look at that so you can see how something like KFC is it so available in Japan, but is part of their culture too in an interesting way that we wouldn't normally think about. Next is this notion of cultural imperialism. This isn't in your textbook, so you'll need to write this one down. Cultural imperialism takes a conflict perspective approach to understanding the dissemination of culture. Todd Gitlin, a sociologist, wrote, "If there's a village, it speaks American, where Americans are in charge of imposing our culture to the rest of the world," as you see in this rather absurd and horrifying at the same time image. Cultural imperialism is the imposition of Cultural imperialism is the imposition of one culture's beliefs and practices on another culture, not through military force, but by mass media and the consumption of consumer products. And so that's what we have here. It's American culture invading the natives, on the island. The McDonald's ship is shooting Coca-Cola, and the Texaco and Shell boats are landing, and off comes Mickey Mouse and Goofy and Donald Duck. It looks like we threw TVs at them, and they've raised the Windows flag, looking like the raising of the flag at Iwo Jima. So cultural imperialism is critical of cultural leveling, and the ways in which technology has influenced culture, because in essence what it happens is that the result is that then people are losing their own culture in order to take up American culture, which might not be fair. Nonetheless, globalization is happening at a rapid pace, and it's leading to what some scholars are calling deterritorialization, which is the weakening ties of culture to place. So going back to the example that I mentioned, where we could all hop in the car and fly to Beijing and stay at the Marriott and drink Starbucks and eat McDonald's, that's kind of an interesting phenomenon, potentially a problem if you take a conflict perspective approach, because then what culture, how do places have their own cultures? If you can always stay at Marriott hotels everywhere, then what are the unique characteristics of the culture in a particular place? So, looking at this picture, you can see lots of different things. I mean, the question that I wanted to ask is where is this? Certainly there are some things in English. We've got Kodak, 7-Eleven, there's Pepsi. This sign's in English. Coca-Cola, Pepsi again. Hotel in English. It's English 24 hours. There's an internet cafe, it looks like. There's the Star of David, symbol of Judaism. Taxi. It's a little difficult to decide where this picture is taken. Now, these things, whatever they're called, these little scooter taxi things, might give away some kind of impression that it might not be in America. And the license plates here as well don't look extremely American. This is in Thailand.